Also, too, many years ago, there was an article in a magazine called Mother Jones, and the article was entitled "The Stealth Crusade." Right? It was called "The Stealth Crusade," and on the cover of the magazine, there was a woman in hijab. She had on niqab and everything, but she had a cross. If you paid attention, she had a cross on. So they were documenting how this was the new tactic of the Christian missionaries in countries, was to have the people, instead of looking like Westerners, the women would put on hijab and himar and niqab and everything, and go around and start promoting or inserting the idea of Jesus and things like that. They talked about how they would, like how you mentioned about giving out candy and gifts, but then they will also do something more, I guess, more negative, which would be like, if you want, like, say if there was a farmer, and if you wanted help with your farm animals, maybe you had animals that were sick, they needed medicine, that you couldn't get the medicine unless you accepted, Christ, Jesus at that moment. Schools, they wouldn't give the village the school unless the people accepted, unless you accepted Christ. They would do things like that, where it had to be, you only could get the help if you accepted Jesus at that moment, and your village accepted or your town accepted. This would be the only way you could get the aid. This would be the way you get the school, the medicine for your animals, or the seeds for your farm and things like that. They would do certain things this way to try to, coerce the people to accept Islam. To accept Christianity. And it just, like the title of the room says, it's corrupt. It's fraud. I don't even know why you would want somebody to accept your religion based upon it, because obviously if you were intelligent, you would say, well, clearly you're only doing this because I'm giving you the food, which is not sincere faith. And in Islam, of course, we're called to sincere faith, right? We don't, we're not called to just have numbers and just people say, I believe, and, but you don't really do so, right? Allah's calling people to sincere faith, so that's the difference there. So I really, I guess the bigger picture with the missionaries, because a lot of times the Christian missionary work has been coupled with the colonial, agenda as well. So perhaps that's part of it too, that, hey, as long as we can get you to accept, and then you'll allow us to come in and take your land and occupy and things like that. So, it's just strange that they would even want to accept such belief, but clearly they don't mind. Clearly they feel that they're doing the work of God. Those who are sincere, if they are sincere, they feel that they're doing the work of God by getting people to come to Jesus no matter what it takes, and I think maybe that might be from the Bible, because there's the writings of Paul, where Paul says that, basically he's willing to get people to come to Christ by any means. It says, to the Jew, I act like a Jew. To the Gentiles, I act like a Gentile. To those without the law, I act like I'm without the law. To those who are for the law, I act so. He said, I become all these things to all people, thereby to bring people to Christ. So perhaps that is the way they think as well, that, hey, as long as we can get you to come, no matter what, whether we tricked you, whether we refused you food and only said you can get, you know what I mean? That perhaps that's where they get their thinking from. But of course, this is seen as sad and insincere faith for those who would, say to believe based upon such things.
Very, very interesting. I totally agree with you, Brother Shadid. Some of these missionaries in Africa, they were working, or I would say they're still working, according to a colonial agenda. Many languages in Africa, especially the Swahili language, it's this African beautiful language, was written before in Arabic scripts. But the British colonial office stopped I think in 40s from writing this beautiful language. No, actually, it was older than that. Write this language in Arabic. For them, writing Swahili language in Arabic was still a sign of the strong presence of Islam in East Africa. So for them, they said, you know what we're going to do? One of the things we have to do is this language has to be stopped writing in Arabic language. It needs to be written in our letters. I mean, in English letters, al-huruf al-rumiyya, which is still continuing until today. Many Arabic words, many words in Swahili language of Hindi or Arabic origin were removed, and it was replaced by words from English language.
MashaAllah. Yes, can I add something to what Brother Shadid said? Inshallah.
Yes, sister. I mean,
Jazakallah
please,
khair.
you are our guest over here. Barakallah, Allah, fiki, jazakallah khair. Go ahead.
Barakallah fikum. Actually, what Brother Shadid is 100% correct, and there is a whole study about this. There is a study called the C1 to C6 Spectrum, a practical tool for defining 6 types of Christ-centered communities. C found in the Muslim context, and that's C for communities. And what they are trying to do, what they call, actually, there is a word for it. They call it contextualization of the Christianity in the Muslim societies. And what they do is basically they want people who look like Muslims, who follow the Islamic traditions, that they can even go into the masjid and pray. But when they prostrate, they don't prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they prostrate to Jesus. So they can sit on their chair that they sit all the time. They can sleep on the same bed. There are some remote villages in Pakistan and in India that they have buildings look like just like a masjid, and people, they when they come into that masjid or to that building, they actually have to take their shoes outside and they go inside. They sit on the floor just like Muslims sit on the floor to listen to the khutbah or whatever, right? But when they're praying, when they do their khutbah, they use the Christian context in their speeches and things like that. They even, like when they are talking about Jesus, they don't talk about him as we say in Arabic, Yeshua, like the original Christians that they were raised Christians. They don't like to call the word Jesus Isa. They say Yeshua, right? So no, what they are doing, because they say, okay, well, those communities have never encountered with Christian Arab, who actually, the Christian Arab, they know the boundaries, they know what really makes them different than the Muslims. So they use their own vocabularies and their own language, in the way that they talk with each other or in their prayers and things like that. But no, you're talking about Muslim communities that they have never encountered with Christians. So what they do is they want to contextualize the Christianity in their own culture and language and make them become Christians, have the loyalty to Christ, as God, astaghfirullah al-azim, right? And, and believe in the Trinity and, and prostrate to God, but to Jesus, but in a way, just like the Muslims are doing. So it doesn't matter if that person is worshipping the Islamic way or the Hindu way or anything like that. What really matters is basically like strip them away from their own religion and make them Christian. And that's why when we look at the pictures of Jesus, we have a white Jesus, we have a black Jesus, we have a Chinese Jesus, we have a Hindu Jesus. I even have a picture of Jesus sitting like a Hindu meditating. Like, you know what I mean? Like crossing their legs and putting 2 hands like on their knees and so on. It's just crazy, right? And that's what they want to do, And also there is another brother who said that before earlier. I think he's an imam or something, where he said that really Christians, their ultimate goal to bring them to Christianity, right? That's their ultimate goal. But before they go to there, they have to take them away from the religion that they are in. So they don't care, like they don't want you to be a Muslim and to stay a Muslim. What is more important for them is to take them outside of Islam and make them agnostic or atheist. Then they will start building the bridge to bring them to Christianity, you know. And so it's very important that we protect our children and we protect our families and the Muslims from these ideologies that they try to, like they are, like we say in Arabic, the poison in the honey. They put poison in the honey basically to make them, go astray from the true religion. Jazakumullah khair.